I was Marcus's first true love. After 3 years abroad, Marcus broke up with the replacement who had been by his side for those 3 years, and eagerly proposed to me. However, what I thought would be a happy ending turned into a complete loss. On our first wedding anniversary, I cooked a feast, only for Marcus to go be with the pregnant replacement. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Luna, I bought you your favorite flowers. On our first wedding anniversary, Marcus came to pick me up from work as usual. Hearing it was him, I put down my tasks and went to meet him. Marcus handed me the flowers in his hand, a bouquet of gardenias. My outstretched hand froze in midair. Marcus looked at my reaction, a little confused. What's wrong? I tried to look at him calmly. Marcus, I don't like the scent of gardenias. Did you forget? Marcus paused, then seemed to remember, his expression turning apologetic. I'm sorry, Luna. I've been a bit busy lately, I got it wrong. It's fine. I pretended not to mind as I took the bouquet of gardenias, so different from my style, suppressing the discomfort in my heart, and forced a gentle, understanding smile. I want Japanese food tonight. Seeing that I didn't mind, Marcus's expression relaxed. He reached out and clasped my other hand. Okay. On the way to dinner, I reached into my bag, feeling for the report, thinking about how to bring it up and what Marcus's reaction would be. Marcus, I have some good news for you. His, however, rang at that inopportune moment, interrupting me. Marcus glanced at it, immediately pulled the car to the side of the road, gave me a slightly apologetic look, and then moved further away from me to answer the call. I watched as Marcus's usual composure vanished. He urgently instructed, "Don't be afraid, I'll be right there." When looked at me, I spoke first. Marcus, please don't go, okay? Marcus hesitated for a moment. I desperately wanted to keep him, reaching out to grab his shirt hem. Then, I watched as Marcus, after hesitating, gently pushed my hand away. He said again, "I'm sorry." Okay, I understand. I forced a smile, speaking as calmly and politely as I could, pushed open the car door, and got out. Marcus didn't stop, the car quickly drove past me and left. I was still holding that bouquet of gardenias in my arms, they were especially glaring. Through the glass of a roadside shop, I realized how stiff and bitter the smile I had forced was. Hadn't Marcus noticed? Scarlet and Luna. Everyone said that just by standing there, Luna, had one. But at that moment, standing on the street, watching the car drive away, I couldn't tell who the replacement was anymore. The one who liked gardenias was Scarlet. I went home alone, convinced myself to forget the afternoon's unpleasantness, and prepared a table full of dishes, eagerly awaiting Marcus's return. But in the end, I sat alone on the sofa, watching the hands of the clock point to 2, then past 2. I took out my phone and stared at the number at the top of my contacts for a long time before calling Marcus. No one answered. My heart tightened, but I stubbornly kept calling. After who knows how many attempts, someone finally answered, but the voice wasn't Marcus's. A timid female voice spoke. It was Scarlet. "Ms. Luna." It was like a bucket of cold water poured over my head. I managed to control my voice as I spoke. Where's Marcus? Marcus went out to get me medicine and didn't take his phone. Okay. I frowned in disgust at such an intimate address, preparing to hang up. Scarlet, however, spoke rather urgently. "Ms. Luna." I didn't think I had anything to say to her, so I waited in silence for her to continue. "I'm pregnant. It's Marcus's." For a moment, my mind went blank, and I couldn't speak for a long time. Only when she spoke again did I manage to suppress my emotions and say I knew, then hung up the phone. ETT's phrase, "Please let us be together," was cut off by me. The paper in my hand was already crumpled from my grip. I just found everything utterly ironic. It was an ultrasound report, the words I hadn't finished saying that afternoon. I was pregnant. Too, however, now it might no longer be good news. I tucked the report into a drawer and went back to my room alone. Lying in bed, I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. I don't know what time it was when I finally heard the door open. I squinted my eyes, looking out the window. The east was already turning pale, dawn was breaking. Marcus didn't notice the untouched food on the table, he just collapsed and fell into a deep sleep. I lay there quietly until it was broad daylight, still unable to sleep. I sat up, ready to get out of bed. Marcus, however, took my hand. I remained seated. Sunlight danced, falling on our clasped hands, and I watched them for a long time. A swirl of conflicting feelings intertwined in my chest. Marcus mumbled drowsily, "Scarlet, just a little more sleep." It was like a bucket of cold water being poured over my head. I woke from a dream. I realized how ridiculous I was. I pried his hand off mine and got out of bed. The bouquet of gardenias had given me yesterday was in the vase in the living room. I bent down to smell them, but the scent still made me frown. I reached out and threw the bouquet of gardenias into the trash can. I started packing my things. Marcus was still asleep on the bed. I packed in silence, and with each item I put away, my heart grew a little colder. When woke up, he called me. Marcus's voice was urgent, as if he genuinely cared. Luna, where did you go? Marcus, let's take some time to cool off, okay? Marcus tried to speak again. Luna, you don't know. Last night. Without hesitation, I hung up the phone, cutting off his voice, and our Cold War began. As luck would have it, Marcus and I had a reunion organized by our high school friends. Fortunately, Marcus didn't show up. But unexpectedly, I saw Scarlet. A close friend explained to me, Scarlet's actually a really good person. If it weren't for this awkward dynamic, you two would definitely get along well. There was an undeniable hint of protectiveness in her tone. I was about to speak when Scarlet called her away. Throughout the gathering, Scarlet seemed more like a childhood friend to them than I did. She knew so many of their habits, it was clear Marcus must have taught her. I sat to the side, feeling awkward. In the years I was gone, Marcus introduced her to them, thoughtfully teaching her how to fit in. The gathering ended, and it started to rain. I still ended up seeing Marcus. Scarlet, standing nearby, saw Marcus, glanced at me, and then gave a gentle smile, but ignored Scarlet. Holding an umbrella in one hand and a freshly bought bouquet of flowers in the other, he quickly walked toward me. Scarlet's expression froze on her face. I stood on the steps, level with Marcus's height. Marcus held the umbrella over my head, his gaze fixed on me. Luna, don't be mad anymore. Before I could even speak, Scarlet, unable to keep up appearances, ran off into the heavy rain. I watched Marcus's feet instinctively take a step as if to follow, then he restrained himself, turning his gaze back to me. I let out a cold laugh, not planning to acknowledge Marcus. Marcus blocked my path, his gaze full of deep affection. But no matter what, he no longer looked like his 17-year-old self, his eyes no longer held that clear, innocent love. Luna, come home with me. You know, no one can compare to you. Marcus, are you still a child? If you weren't sure, why did you propose to me then? Marcus grabbed my hand. Luna, I just haven't adjusted. It's like I was still living in the days after you left, and only she was with me. I only love you. I pulled my hand free. No matter what, it doesn't matter anymore. My hand brushed my still flat lower abdomen. After some hesitation, I said, Marcus, let's get a divorce. Without another glance at him, I turned and left. Sitting in the car, messages in the friends group chat kept popping up, all subtly accusing me of being petty. Luna, Scarlet was afraid you two would argue, so she went home alone in the heavy rain. Don't misunderstand them. Yeah, Scarlet's had a tough time on her own too. After all, Scarlet, as my replacement, had always suffered in silence, enduring such hardship. Only, who had grown up with me, furiously threw out a video. In the video, Scarlet, who only vaguely resembled me, was wearing the exact same dance costume I used to wear for performances, had the same hairstyle, and even performed the same dance, perfectly copying my look. And in the video, Scarlet's gaze was undisguisedly following Marcus, who was sitting in the corner. Chloe, she copied Luna to seduce Marcus, and by mimicking Luna, she won that competition's championship, then used Marcus's connections to reach a level she could never have achieved otherwise. Who forced her to do any of that? If she feels so wronged, she shouldn't be so disgusting. Everyone in the group chat who wanted to defend Scarlet fell silent because of this video and started trying to smooth things over. Scarlet finally spoke up, I really didn't mean to. Chloe mercilessly exposed her, not on purpose? Could it be exactly the same by accident? Your eyes were practically glued to Marcus. Scarlet was speechless from the rebuke, then turned her attack toward me. Ms. Luna, there's really nothing going on between us. If you have a problem with me, you can come to me. Can you please stop targeting me like this? Marcus finally intervened, belatedly. Stop talking. I didn't plan to reply. I just thanked Chloe and left the group chat. To my surprise, I received a friend request from Scarlet. Most of Scarlet's social media feed was blocked to me, but there was one post that seemed intentionally left for me to see. It was from a few days ago, showing Marcus abandoning me to thoughtfully comfort her by rubbing her stomach. Scarlet proactively invited me to talk at the coffee on the weekend. I thought about it and, having no reason to refuse, I agreed. When we met at the coffee, Scarlet's hair lay smoothly on her shoulders, and she had a docile, innocent look, a style I used to love when I was 17. Scarlet smoothed her hair and gently began, Ms. Luna, you know, I'm pregnant with Marcus's child. I scoffed. Didn't you say there was nothing going on between you two? Scarlet's face fell, but only for a moment. She recovered quickly, lifting her chin. Luna, let me be blunt with you. You've noticed, haven't you? He loves me now. I stopped being your replacement a long time ago. I looked her up and down, my gaze sweeping over the light-colored floral dress she was wearing, the same kind I loved most when I was 17, and finally resting on the 2 sugar cubes in my coffee. That was my old habit. Then I smiled faintly. Scarlet's newfound pride vanished instantly. All she could be proud of was Marcus's half-hearted affection. The mockery in my eyes deepened. By what right do you tell his legal wife to step aside for you? Scarlet stubbornly lifted her chin. But he doesn't love you anymore. That's something for him and me to discuss, not you. I calmly stood up, ready to say no more. Scarlet saw I was about to leave, stood up, and grabbed my wrist. You two have to get a divorce. I lost my patience. With my other hand, I picked up the coffee from the table and poured it all over the floral dress she wore to imitate me. Don't provoke me. I'm not exactly easygoing. Having said that, I wasn't going to talk to her anymore. I lowered my head to gather my things, then looked up to see Marcus standing at the door, his eyes filled with fury. Marcus strode over. Scarlet's tears were already streaming down her face. Did you invite me here just to humiliate me? Marcus gripped my hand, pulled me, then looked at me with a feigned sadness, a sickening expression on his face. Don't make things difficult for her. I sneered, then make sure she doesn't provoke me. Marcus frowned, about to speak, when Scarlet opportunely clutched her stomach and whined. While was distracted by her, I pulled my hand free, took out the divorce papers from my bag, and said, get ready. For a moment, Marcus stood stunned. Stop this, Luna. Marcus, don't you understand? Marcus finally grew anxious. You know, no one can compare to you. Don't leave, Luna. I looked at Marcus, finding his words utterly ridiculous. Under my gaze, Marcus lacked confidence. I'll take care of her, you know, in the years you were gone, it was always her. I sneered, what? Are you going to die if you don't have someone to keep you company? Wait for me, Luna. Don't make a scene anymore, and don't make things difficult for her. I felt a wave of nausea, and a crisp slap landed on his face. Marcus, don't be so greedy. For in the following days, Marcus continued to pester me, unwilling to divorce. Meanwhile, Scarlet frequently updated her social media feed with posts about her daily life with Marcus. From that day on, these things no longer pained me. I just wanted to get divorced quickly. Unexpectedly, I ran into Marcus and Scarlet while I was at my prenatal checkup alone. What are you doing here? Marcus, once again ignoring Scarlet beside him, looked at me with concern, asking if I was okay. I felt a wave of nausea. He was the only person in the world who would show concern for me while with his mistress. It's none of your business anymore. Sign the divorce papers soon. I glanced at Scarlet, who was beside him with a resentful expression, and finished my sentence, it'll be better for everyone. Scarlet's hand, resting on her stomach, tugged urgently at Marcus's shirt hem, looking very wronged. She had clearly adopted the demeanor of a wife. I reminded him about the divorce one last time and walked away quickly. Unexpectedly, Scarlet chased after me, blocking me in the stairwell. Can't you just let Marcus go? Why did you come back after you left? I felt a strong distaste for Scarlet's attitude. Right now, I'm still his wife. If you don't like it, tell him to sign the divorce papers. I didn't want to continue this pointless entanglement. I turned to leave, when suddenly a force from behind pushed me forward. I tumbled down the stairs, and a wave of pain swept over my entire body. I looked up. Scarlet stood high above, looking down at me, a hint of a smile on her face. A sinking sensation pulsed in my stomach. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, only Chloe was by my bedside, loudly cursing Marcus and Scarlet. Seeing me awake, she asked with concern how I felt. I shook my head and told her not to worry. Chloe held back for a moment, then asked, you were pregnant? Yes. I already had a premonition. My baby. Chloe looked at me with heartache, the words tumbled around in her mouth before she finally managed to say, it's gone. I had already anticipated it, I just offered a pale smile. Chloe started cursing again, I'm going to find those 2 monsters. I stopped her. Don't tell them. I have nothing to do with them anymore. No sooner had I spoken than the door was pushed open. It was Marcus, who asked with concern how I was feeling. Looking at him just turned my stomach, I resisted looking at him. Seeing him, Chloe's anger surged even more. How dare you show up here? Aren't you going to be with your mistress? Go look at her, because I swear I won't let her get away with this. Marcus heard this and hastily explained to me, she's young and foolish, don't be mad at her. She didn't mean it, and what? Chloe watched him with cold eyes. Marcus, knowing he lacked confidence, said in a low voice, she's pregnant with my child. Chloe immediately flew into a rage. Then do you know that Luna? After we got married? I interrupted Chloe. Marcus glanced at me, his expression tormented and conflicted, with a sickening pretense of deep affection. Luna. I was physically and mentally exhausted. I won't pursue this with her, just finalize the divorce with me. Marcus was silent for a long time, knowing he was in the wrong. He finally gave in and agreed. The divorce with Marcus was finalized quickly. On the afternoon I received the divorce certificate, I booked a plane ticket and resigned from a job I didn't like. A year ago, I had given up my beloved dance career for Marcus, returned to the States to marry him, and felt I was becoming less and less like myself. I was a wanderer at heart. I realized I wasn't Luna anymore, so I needed to go find Luna again. Before boarding the plane, I saw Marcus in the crowd at the airport. From a distance, Marcus saw me, and his eyes were filled with panic and pain. He hurried after me, holding a report in his hand. Luna. Are you pregnant? I remembered the ultrasound report left in my drawer. 5 But it was all too late, the baby was gone. Before I could speak, Marcus embraced me recklessly, a little agitated. Luna, I'll take care of her, no one else will bother us anymore. Can we start over? We'll raise our child well. Marcus actually started fantasizing about our future. I took the report from Marcus's hand, tenderly touching the still unformed life it represented. It was already gone. Marcus looked at me, still in an excited state. Luna, you're the one I love. It's been you since I was 17. I want to have a small home just for us with you. I looked up into Marcus's expectant eyes, thinking of how our home had already been destroyed by his own hands. I pushed Marcus away, finally finding an opening in his rambling. I spoke softly, my voice both mocking and bitter. The baby is already gone. Marcus's hand froze in place, his eyes wide with disbelief. I looked into Marcus's eyes and asked him, word for word, did you forget? I was pushed down the stairs by Scarlet. You said she was young and foolish, and told me not to be mad at her. I watched Marcus's face turn ashen, his lips trembling, yet he couldn't speak. To be honest, I felt a perverse satisfaction. The announcement sounded, and I pulled my suitcase, leaving. Marcus stood there, slow to react, as if crushed by something. I didn't look back at him, striding away. From then on, Marcus and I never contacted each other again. I danced with all my might and lived beautifully with all my might. This was the true Luna. Sometimes, former high school classmates would flip through their yearbooks and call, reminiscing with a sigh. No one had imagined we'd end up like this. After all, Marcus and I were the envy of everyone when we were 17. Now, I no longer miss the past, I just smile it off. My life is full now. I study while working part-time as a teacher at the dance. It was dismissal time when I hung up the phone. A student ran up to me, holding a camellia. Teacher, teacher. I ruffled her head and, a little surprised, accepted the flower. She added, Uncle said this flower suits you. Following her gaze, I saw a man in a black coat and glasses standing outside the dance's transparent glass. He had handsome features, a Chinese man, exuding a gentle, refined aura. Seeing me look at him, he gave me a gentle, somewhat shy smile. From then on, Julian started pursuing me. However, I wasn't really in the mood to start a new relationship, and Julian never pressed me, simply standing quietly behind me. Meeting him, too, felt like fate's favor. However, Julian and I's connection would end abroad, because I was returning to the States. But this time, it wasn't for anyone else, it was for my dream. 6 I returned to the States to participate as a judge in a national dance competition, taking the opportunity to develop my career there. Among the contestants, I saw Scarlet. Times had changed. Scarlet no longer had Marcus's resources, she wasn't enjoying a rapid rise to success anymore. It was said she had pleaded for this opportunity, but no matter what, she had nothing to do with me anymore. I graded her according to the normal standards. Ultimately, Scarlet, with her mediocre skill set, still didn't make it to the semifinals. My score wasn't the lowest, yet Scarlet accused me on stage of malicious grading. She even claimed I had ruined her relationship. The video leaked, and instantly, I was cursed on the trending topics. My social media account, usually used for documenting my dance, was instantly flooded. The other woman can be a judge too? Can the organizers please check her moral character? How disgusting. Does a person like this really deserve to dance? The organizers, unable to withstand the public pressure and funding gaps, allowed Scarlet to enter the semifinals after all. I withdrew from the judging panel. While packing my things, I ran into Scarlet. Scarlet laughed contemptuously and triumphantly. Luna, you'll never win against me in your entire life. The main door was pushed open, and Julian strode in. Uncharacteristically, he wasn't in his usual meticulous appearance, his hair was slightly disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept well, but it still couldn't conceal his refined demeanor. Julian first scanned me up and down, and only after confirming I was all right did he look at Scarlet. Julian was usually gentle, but when he rarely looked at someone with anger, he was quite intimidating. Scarlet flinched under his gaze, but then she couldn't help but provoke me. Couldn't hold on to Marcus, so you found someone new? I wasn't an easy target either. Withdrawing from the judging panel was just a courtesy to the organizers, as a friend, because I didn't want to cause them any more trouble. Scarlet had pushed me down the stairs earlier, and I still had to get her back. I raised my hand and slapped Scarlet across the face. Did you forget what you are? Scarlet clutched her face, looking up in disbelief. Marcus won't let you off easy. I smiled, not caring much. Julian, on the other hand, directly covered the organizers' funding gap and added more, so Scarlet's semi-final qualification ultimately fell through. After everything was settled, I invited Julian to dinner to thank him. After dinner, Julian had to rush to catch his afternoon flight. I asked him, "You're only here for such a short time?" Julian looked at me, a little helpless, a little wronged. "You just left without a word, like an eel. I was afraid I wouldn't find you." Seeing the dark circles under Julian's eyes, my heart was touched. Before, I always thought that distance across countries meant our connection would end there. It turned out someone was willing to go to such lengths. Perhaps it was also Scarlet's doing. In any case, the video of me slapping Scarlet spread. It firmly cemented my reputation for being malicious. I didn't care much. I turned off my social media comments, I just needed to dance well, and that was enough. And continued to sling mud at me. However, to my surprise, when public opinion reached its peak, Marcus spoke out. He released our marriage certificate and many other things, speaking up for me and exposing Scarlet. And once again, he put on a sickening display, publicly confessing his feelings. The truth came out. This time, all the curses I had endured poured onto Scarlet. I received a call from Marcus, he begged me to meet him. I finally agreed. Marcus arranged for us to meet at a small local diner we loved most in high school. The owner still remembered us, reminiscing with emotion, "I remember you too. Your relationship was so good back then. The young man used to come every day and queue up to buy you pancakes." I smiled, offering no explanation. Those memories were already very distant. Back then, Marcus was willing to run all over town to buy me a hair clip, willing to stay with me at the dance until 2 in the morning. And willing to take a long detour just to walk me home. Now, things had changed, and people were no longer the same. We sat opposite each other in the same diner, and Marcus cautiously began, "Luna, can we get back together?" My heart remained unmoved, "It's impossible for us now." Marcus, however, didn't listen at all, reminiscing about the past on his own. Finally, he grabbed my hand again. "Scarlet's not in the picture anymore. You know, I've always loved you. It's just that she was so much like you, and I couldn't bring myself to abandon her, especially since she was with me for 3 years. I spoke calmly. Actually, the moment you found her, we should have ended things. No matter how much she resembled me, she wasn't me, and she wasn't an excuse for your infidelity." Knowing had nothing important to say, I stood up and left, no longer wanting to be entangled with him. The semifinals quickly began, and I resumed my role as a judge. At the competition, I saw Scarlet. She was sitting in the audience, and in just a few weeks, she had taken on a gloomy, sullen appearance. I only glanced at her once, then paid her no further attention, focusing on the competition. The competition lasted an entire afternoon. By the time I packed up and finished work, it was already late afternoon. Scarlet was still there, but this time she stood up and walked toward me. She was tightly clutching something in her hand. Only when she slowly approached did I see clearly what it was, a knife. My heart tightened, and I wanted to get away from her. But I realized she had locked the door. Scarlet looked at me, laughing somewhat maniacally, with uncontainable hatred in her eyes. She spoke, "Do you know? My baby is gone. I endured for so many years, and everything turned into nothing because of you. Now I can't even live a normal life. It's all because of you. I hate you. Scarlet, that's my freedom. Your misfortune has nothing to do with me. I never did anything to you. All of T. His was clearly her own consequences. While keeping an eye on her movements, I sent a text message to call the police. Scarlet was still rambling on, detailing her failures that had nothing to do with me. Just as I grew tense, the door was slammed open. It was Marcus. Scarlet spoke. Marcus, did you come for me? Marcus's voice was urgent. What are you doing? Don't touch her. Scarlet could no longer suppress her hatred, grabbed the knife, and rushed toward me. I desperately gripped her wrist. Scarlet struggled furiously, the tip of the knife mere inches from my throat. The banging on the door stopped, leaving only the sound of my own heartbeat. I guessed Marcus had gone to find the key. Scarlet recklessly tried to stab me. At the same moment, the main door burst open, and Marcus pulled us apart. Scarlet was in pain and filled with resentment. Marcus, what do I even mean to you? Scarlet kept talking as she stepped closer to Marcus, the knife still in her hand. Marcus stepped back, and after saying that one line, "You'll never compare to her," he lost his footing and tumbled down the stairs. Scarlet stood rooted to the spot, resentfully raising the knife and looking at me. It's all because of you. Fortunately, the police finally arrived. I called 911, stayed by Marcus's side until he was out of danger, and then hired a caregiver for him. I didn't want much more contact with Marcus, figuring out how to repay the favor. I personally contacted a lawyer, and Scarlet was jailed. Scarlet seemed to finally wake from her delusion. I went to see her. Scarlet glared at me viciously. Luna, you'll never have him, not in a million years. I found it laughable. Even at the end, her meaning was still tied to Marcus. I smiled faintly at her, maintaining my composure. Scarlet, I still have a chance to stand on stage again. Luna, will always be beautiful. But, you'll never have that chance again. Having said that, I ignored Scarlet's desperate curses and turned to leave. Marcus had been unconscious for a few days but finally woke up. The moment he saw me, Marcus eagerly got out of bed. Luna, I missed you so much. I calmly informed Marcus once again. Marcus, there's no future for us. Marcus paused, as if he didn't quite understand. Luna, what do you mean? He then took my hand again, looking tentative. Did I do something to make you angry? I looked at Marcus and said, Marcus, did you forget? We're already divorced. Marcus took 2 steps back in disbelief. How is that possible? We haven't even gotten married yet. I called for a doctor. The doctor told me that Marcus had hit his head and suffered memory loss. I sighed. Marcus's memory was stuck at 17. I had no interest in saying more to Marcus, so I simply and concisely told him we were divorced. Marcus didn't believe it, pestering me with questions. How is that possible, Luna? I really love you. How could I divorce you? I told Marcus that he had fallen in love with a replacement who was vaguely similar to me. Marcus still didn't believe it. 17-year-old Marcus only loved the Luna right in front of him, but 23-year-old Marcus loved things he couldn't grasp, loved the young, beautiful Scarlet who resembled me yet was more interesting than me, and couldn't let go of the Luna from his youth. Luna, are you just messing with me? I don't believe it. Finally, looking at the man in front of me who wholeheartedly believed he would love me forever, I told him everything, with a hint of malice. I told him that while I was gone, he had loved someone who vaguely resembled me, that he had kissed that person, and that he hadn't loved me, yet he acted under the pretense of deeply loving me. I told him he had 2 children from 2 women who vaguely resembled me, and what's more, the 2 children were born only a few days apart. I told him he had pushed me to the ground, causing me to lose a child. I told him he couldn't tell the difference between me and Scarlet anymore, that he'd held my hand and whispered her name. My words seemed to trigger some memories for Marcus. He clutched his head, repeatedly muttering, "It's impossible, Luna, it's impossible." Watching him, I recalled the past, a memory I hadn't revisited in a long time. I remembered that winter when we were 17. Marcus didn't want me to feel even a bit cold, so his coat and hat were entirely on me. Then he'd cup my hands and breathe warmth onto them. When I smiled at him, he'd blush from his cheeks to his ears, stammering explanations that it was just the wind. Could you have ever imagined this, Marcus? It was already noon. They came to deliver lunch, and Julian also came to invite me to eat. But his appearance only agitated Marcus further. He knocked over his food. Luna, don't go with him. I calmly told him, Marcus, we're not 17 anymore. That was you, and what you've forgotten, that was you too. Having said that, Julian and I left side by side. After lunch with Julian, we had the afternoon free, so Julian accompanied me to the dance to prepare for a performance. The setting sun spilled into the dance. Julian held a bottle of water, watching me with a smile. It created the illusion of perfect serenity, until shattered that tranquility. He chased me from the hospital to the dance, stubbornly standing outside the glass. Luna, I'll wait for you until class is over. Seeing that it was almost time, I packed up my things. Marcus, I don't need to take classes anymore. It's not like when we were 17. Marcus still didn't listen, raising a smile. Want some of the local barbecue spot's grilled food? I'll go get you some in a bit. For a moment, he genuinely overlapped quite a bit with his sincere teenage self. But in the end, times had changed, and youth never returned. I sighed. Reluctantly, I coaxed Marcus back to the hospital and asked the caregiver to keep a closer eye on him. In the following days, Julian also had to return to war. But he still came to see me whenever he had free time. He hadn't given up his work, nor had he given up on me. Marcus caused a fuss for a while, but he recovered sufficiently and was discharged from the hospital. The day he was discharged, he saw our divorce certificate. I was walking ahead, and 17-year-old Marcus stood behind me, quietly saying, "I'm sorry." I smiled and shook my head, then turned away. I continued to compete and dance as usual, living immersed in what I loved. Marcus still watched me stubbornly, but I no longer lingered for him. The competition went smoothly, and I successfully advanced to the semi-finals in France. After the competition, Julian appeared as usual, holding a bouquet of flowers, and then raised his camera. "Contestant, look at the lens." I smiled and cooperated. A heavy snow began to fall outside the window. I watched through the glass for a moment, then ran out. Julian thoughtfully picked up my coat and scarf, following me with a faint smile. I reached out to catch a snowflake. Julian smiled, holding up the scarf. "Ms. Luna, may I tie your scarf for you?" I stepped closer, tilting my head back to expose my neck. Julian's smile widened, and he raised his hand to tie the scarf around me. "Julian. I'm going to France next month?" "I know. Do you still like me?" Julian lowered his gaze to meet my eyes, which were tilted up towards him. Word by word, he said earnestly, "I like you. Very much. I like you." I smiled softly. "Will you wait for me to come back? I need to find myself first, and then we can find us." Julian tied the knot of my scarf, then stepped back to straighten it for me, his smiling eyes behind his glasses always gazing at me so gently. "Go find yourself, contestant Luna. I'll wait for you." Julian first met Luna at the airport. That was the year Luna, at 19, went abroad alone to pursue her dreams. Julian watched the small girl, her eyes red, as if she had just finished crying. Dragging a large suitcase alone, bustling through the crowd. By chance, their eyes met for a fleeting moment. Julian couldn't describe the feeling of that moment. Her eyes were bright and resolute. It was a time when Julian felt lost about his future, yet in that instant, he found his direction. Imperceptibly, that shared glance gave him strength. Later, Julian didn't often think of her, yet he never forgot the small girl with resolute steps in the crowd. After that, Julian saw many eyes, some resembled hers, some were her complete opposite, but none of them were her. Never again did a pair of eyes lodge so deeply in his heart. Then, many years later, on a street in the UK, Julian hadn't expected to see her again. She resolutely threw away a SIM card, then vulnerable, she crouched in a corner, sobbing uncontrollably. Julian hadn't expected to see her again, nor had he thought he'd recognize her instantly. Finally, Julian pretended to pass by and dropped the report he was holding into her arms, listening to her choked "thank you." Julian's heartbeat took a long time to settle. The hand that had dropped the report for her trembled with nervousness. The man, usually so composed, had never been like this before. Julian stood in place, looking at himself like this, and laughed resignedly. Later, on Valentine's Day, Julian's unreliable sister and brother-in-law went off for some alone time, leaving Julian to watch their kids. They even said, self-righteously, "Oh, come on, you're not seeing anyone anyway. You haven't dated in years. If you're so capable, bring a girlfriend home. If not, then just help us watch the kids." On's night, Julian also had to pick up his little niece from her dance class. When arrived, there was a young girl selling flowers by the door, with only a few stems left in her hand. Julian saw her hands, red from the cold, walked over, and bought the remaining flowers, hoping she could go home sooner. As casually walked in with the camellia flower, he instantly saw her through the transparent glass. The children were gathered in a circle, with Luna in the center, demonstrating to the music. The light lovingly shone on Luna, dazzling Julian's eyes. It was only when she announced the end of class that Julian snapped back to reality. His little niece rushed into his arms. "Uncle, why do you have a flower? What a beautiful flower." Julian looked at the flower in his hand and suddenly felt it suited her perfectly. As if guided by fate, Julian handed the flower to his little niece and asked her to give it to Luna. He then stood outside the window, his palms sweating with nervousness, and began to regret if he had been too abrupt. But watched as she slowly lifted her head, the smile still gracing her face, and their eyes met directly in midair. He watched her lips move silently to thank him. Julian's tightly clenched palms relaxed, and his heart pounded. But seeing Luna gently sniff the flower, his heart slowly calmed down. Everything felt so fated, as if this flower was meant for her. Julian didn't know that this flower compensated for the hurt she felt from receiving the gardenia that wasn't truly meant for her. Luna didn't know that a single glance from her resulted in confusion and helplessness amidst the crowd. After twists and turns, the right people will always find each other. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section, and we welcome your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. See you next time.